Next up, we have release number 22, Blood Tide, once again featuring the Sixth Doctor and Evelyn. And as with Dust Breeding, yes, absolutely listen to it. As you can see, it has classic Silurians. Why wouldn't you want to listen to this fantastic story? Continuing the Sixth Doctor and Evelyn adventures, we have Project Twilight. Once again, if you are following Evelyn's adventures, be sure to give it a go. This trilogy stretches a bit longer than the first 50, so I think at least for part 3, you will have to go to the Big Finish website to get it. But if you love vampires, this is just fantastic. Basically, anything with Evelyn and sex is fantastic. Featuring the Fifth Doctor, Peri, and a new companion from ancient Egypt called Arimam, we have Eye of the Scorpion. And this stretch has just been so good because, once again, be sure to listen to it. Arimam is one of my favorite companions, which I didn't know about until last year. He's fantastic. Continuing the streak of perfect releases, we have a Seventh Doctor adventure called Caldits, which is about this one castle in October 1944. And, as World War II draws towards its conclusion, and it deals with a lot of timey-wimey stuff. It has David Tennant in it, not as the 10th Doctor, of course, because this was released way before even Christopher Eccleston returned, but it's just perfect. I don't want to spoil too much, but it's great. As I said last time, with a lot of these mythos stories, I do find them enjoyable, but they are not particularly easy to recommend. Just are ones which are easier to recommend for me personally. So up to you. I'd say skip it for now. And with this one, number 27, The One Doctor, I'd say give it a go. Maybe it's just because of my love of Sexy and especially Mel, who is returning for this series 14. So love that. But getting on with my point, yeah, it's just pure fun, which a lot of Six and Mel stories are. And now we return to the Eighth Doctor adventures with Series 2, starting with The Invaders from Mars. Which, I mean, it's fine, as a lot of early Eighth Doctor adventures. Some of them are fantastic, some of them are just fine. This is a fine one. If you're going along with Charlie's Journey, sure, it has Orson Welles. I suggest only listening to it if you're interested or you're listening to the Charlie stuff. And here we come to the first Christmas special of Doctor Who's monthly range, and the first for the Eighth Doctor, which he has a few. The Chimes of Midnight, once again written by the wonderful Robert Shearman. And this is a definite yes. If you've been in the Big Finish fandom, or even perhaps the wider Doctor Who fandom, you'll know this release is very well regarded, and for good reason too. It's just brilliant, it's funny, it can be kind of terrifying at times, and just yeah. And we're now over halfway through, and we have Seasons of Fear. which some say is like what a Doctor Who movie should be. And I sort of agree. It has a lot of different elements, it has different segments for the different episodes, different settings, and I suggest giving it a go. For release number 31, we come to Embrace the Darkness, a story which can only work in an audio landscape because they, the Doctor and Charlie go to a system where there is no light. So basically, all the time they spend in darkness. It's written by Nicholas Briggs, and once again, maybe it's just me loving Eight and Charlie, and early Eight and Charlie, but I remember loving this every second of it, and obviously give it a go. For 32, we come to the final part of the Dalek Empire quadrilogy, Time of the Daleks, which once again is a fun Dalek chase with William Shakespeare and Daleks quoting Shakespeare, which is an absolute delight. And as you can see, something to do with magic mirrors. Absolute yes. Just and now we come to the final Eighth Doctor and Charlie adventure before the big one. We have Neverland, which actually is really fascinating if you love Gallifrey and the Web of Time because it's all stretching and it deals with Gallifrey's past and the vaporization of Time Lords and where do they go. And it has, as you can see, well, you could see if my avatar wasn't in the way, it has Lalla Ward, which fans will know her as Romana, and she's returning as Romana. So, absolutely yes. And this will help you with the next big thing, which I'll talk about way later in about 17 releases. Release 34 is Doctor Who Spare Parts, which once again, as with Robert Sherman's scripts, this one is also very well regarded as one of the best Cyberman stories and just big finishes. And most of that is because it gives genesis to the Cybermen. It includes the Fifth Doctor and Nyssa, which this is probably my favorite Fifth Doctor Nyssa release that I've heard of so far. Although I do have to say that as worthy as this is, I went in with a lot of expectations. I was a little underwhelmed, but that's just because of how highly it is spoken about. It's a perfect story otherwise. Once again, number 35-ish is a recommendation if you love the Sixth Doctor and Perry together. It deals with a lot of words and phrases and lexicography, which to me is interesting. And if you were to choose a Sixth Doctor and Perry release between this and Sounds of Terror, I would definitely choose this. Now, for 36, we have the Rapture with the iconic silhouette of Sylvester McCoy standing there. And absolutely give it a go, especially if you like dance music. And here we have the Sandman, And no, it's not that Sandman, not the Neil Gaiman one, but it's once again, if you're following Evelyn's arc, absolutely. Otherwise, you can probably skip it. But I love that it deals with the Doctor's darker sides, and it deals with the Sandman, who you'll just have to listen to find out who that is. But yeah, you can skip it if you're not into the Evelyn stuff. The Church and the Crown sees the return of my favorite trio of Doctor and companions, that being, of course, Aramem, Perry, and the Fifth Doctor, and it deals with France and obviously the battle between the state and the church that happened in the 17th century in Paris. And just, yeah, absolutely. If you love RMM, or if you just love time period pieces, absolutely. Bang Bang a Boom, which once again a fun release with Mel and the Seventh Doctor. And if you love Eurovision or contests like that, absolutely give it a go. And just in general, if you love just fun, not that serious releases, if you love fun, not that serious releases, be sure to give it a go. Number 40, we have Jubilee, which once again was written by Robert Sherman, and once again is one of the most highly acclaimed Big Finish releases, having even kind of inspired Dalek from Series 1 with Christopher Eccleston, although this is very different to what Dalek was. But still, it's a very interesting concept. Yeah, absolutely give it a go. For 41, we have Necromantia. And as much as I love Erimem and Perry and Five, this is a one you can just skip. It, it's nothing too special. It's trying to be Space Marines. It's trying to be sort of whatever, and in actuality, it doesn't achieve much. It's forgettable. I do not remember a single thing that happens. And now for the better Bernie Summerfield release of the main rage I promised you last time, we have The Dark Flame, which once again has Ace, Benny, and the Seventh Doctor, but this time in a way better story. Now we have Doctor Who and the Pirates, which is just bloody brilliant. It deals with loss. It has its moments, and then again, it has the Doctor singing about being a Gallifreyan buccaneer, which is bloody brilliant to hear Colin sing. So yes, absolutely give it a go. Once again, I did like this one rather more than the last. I rather like this one more than Primeval, but once again, it's a sort of either you listen to it because you love Nissa, which I do. Don't get me wrong, I love Nissa, but with the stories, with other stories, it's kinda hit or miss. Number 45, we have the second part of the project trilogy, or even actually quadrology. But once again, it's interesting, and it features, as you can see, two doctors, with the Sixth Doctor being in the first two parts, if I remember correctly, and the Seventh Doctor being in the latter two parts. So, yes, absolutely give it a go if you're following the project series. The 46th release is actually one of the more experimental ones, being Flip Flop, which you can listen to either way. Either you start with Flip and end with Flop, or you start with Flop and end with Flip. So, yes, absolutely, just for the format of it, give it a go. Just for the sake of time, I'll bundle the next three together and say that yes, you should listen to Omega, you should listen to Davros, and you should listen to the Master, because while they are separate in their contents, this is what's widely known as the Villain Trilogy, and they are just a set of great stories featuring very recognizable enemies, and just, yeah, they're just bloody brilliant. So, especially Master. And the big one, the one that is said to break people's minds because they don't understand it, Zagreus. If you will have listened to some previous releases, you'll kind of know what Zagreus is, because his rhyme appears a couple of times in previous releases. Having followed the Charlie arc from the Storm Warning up to here, I didn't have any trouble. It does play with well-known actors for playing the Doctors, playing different roles, so that might get a bit confusing, but it shouldn't be, which is funny because in actuality, there's only one Doctor in this release for a major part of it, and it is 3 hours long. But if you've gone through the Charlie stuff, or if you're prepared to not understand a lot, if you haven't, then absolutely go and check this out. It's just fantastic. Also, write in if you want me to do 50 to 100 and so forth. Those are not on Spotify, but still, maybe you want to check them out because they're a good price on the Big Finish website. As well as I am doing all of the big finishes on Spotify, Doctor Who and not, hopefully sometime in July. So look out for that. Anyways, thanks again. See you next time.